Do you have a fear of failure, or do you have anxiety over the future? The fear of failure, it is a significant fear for most. It's funny because as I started doing research for this topic, I saw that the fear of failure was number 4 on the greatest fears list. Right after death came the fear of failure. And it's interesting because the more I looked into the topic and the more research I did about it, the more I was able to see that in most cases, it's not a fear of failure that people have, but it is anxiety over the future. In order to dive into this topic, we must first establish that fear and anxiety, while they are related emotions, they differ in their triggers and their responses. So they're not the same thing. Fear arises in response to an immediate known threat. It's often linked to a specific identifiable cause. When it comes to fear, the focus is on the present danger. And when the present danger goes away, fear begins to dissipate. Anxiety involves worry over a threat regarding something that has not or may not ever happen. It often arises from an uncertain or unknown threat, and it is a response to a potential threat in the future. So fear is immediate. Anxiety persists. So our challenge is to identify, is there a danger currently present? Fear is like seeing a snake on a walk in a park. You see the snake, which then causes you to feel this feeling of fear. Anxiety is like the same alarm bells going off when you haven't seen a snake or any signs of the snake. So when it comes to the subject of the fear of failure, we have to identify what it is. And what are some common reasons that people fear failure? The first one that I want to cover is negative consequences. Failure is often associated with negative outcomes. This tends to lead to fear in the moment and anxiety over time. One of the things that we need to establish up front is that really, for many, they are just afraid of the potential consequences. They're not afraid of the moment, they're afraid of the potential for trouble. As long as you convince yourself that you're able to deal with the consequences no matter what happens, fear is less likely to exist. The next reason for a fear of failure that I want to cover is that fear of failure is often linked to self-worth and identity. Failure can feel like a personal judgment. And if your identity is tied up in success, you will always fear failure because in failing, you would be saying that you are a failure. One of the issues is that fear of failure challenges the perception that we have of ourselves. And that's one of the reasons that we hate it so much. Another reason is social pressures. Societal norms often emphasize success and achievement. So you can look at this through society, like you're trying to compare yourself, but also sometimes we have pressure from our family. Sometimes it can be the people that are really, really close to you that are adding to this pressure, and that pressure causes you to fear letting people down. The last one I want to cover is the comfort zone of the individual plays here as well. Failure or success requires the individual to step outside of his or her comfort zone. So as we continue to speak of this topic, one of the things that we need to do is we need to challenge our perception of failure. We need to adopt a healthy perception of failure. Failure is not quiet. Failure is a loudmouth. Failure speaks loud, and it often confirms those negative ways that we feel about ourselves. And so what it's going to take is some work on our minds and really challenging some of the thoughts that come in. One of the healthiest mindsets regarding failure is the concept that failure is necessary. Because there's not a single person that you admire, there's not a single person that is a success that has not had failure. So our challenge is to strengthen our minds to the point of viewing failure no longer as a bad thing, but as a stepping stone towards our growth and our development. Now, one of the concepts that I love is the simple fact that life is always teaching us something. And those that pay attention, they have an easier path throughout life. They still go through things, don't get me wrong, but they don't endure as much of the same cycle of issues that those that do not pay attention to what life's trying to teach them. And when it comes to failure being the stepping stone, we can either learn from our own mistakes or we can learn from the mistakes of others. There's a quote that says, "Only a fool learns from his own mistakes. Wise men learn from the mistakes of others." Now, I don't think you're a fool, but there's some definite truth to that. If ever we're in a situation where we can learn from other people, why not do so? It could very much so expedite our journey towards whatever the desired outcome is. There's nothing new under the sun. And so everything that you're trying to accomplish, someone has accomplished to a certain degree. Now, it might not be in the same manner that you're going to accomplish it, but you're not inventing the wheel here. There's always some type of foundation that is laid, and there's someone who has gone through what you're going through to some degree. And wise people talk to people that have been there. Wise people do not just take the L's themselves. However, they do their best to get enough knowledge to set themselves up in a position that can ultimately cause them to win as opposed to continue to fail over and over and over again. Life is always teaching us something. And if we pay attention when the teacher is speaking, we won't have to take as many L's as those that do not. Another way to combat the fear of failure is to rehearse past victories. In our minds, we can rehearse past failures or we can rehearse past victories. So just like we can rehearse the bad things that happen in our lives, conversely, we can rehearse the good things that happen in our lives. And the thing about rehearsing past victories is that it strengthens you for future conflicts because you can look back and say, "Oh, I've been here before. I'm going to be all right. I'm going to make it out. Yeah, this is difficult. Yes, this is challenging, but I had a victory in something similar before, so I'm not freaked out." Rehearsing past victories strengthens your level of confidence in your ability to win in the future. Another thing that I love about replaying past victories is that if we continue to replay past victories, we can begin to shift our mindset from thinking that failure is all negative. It then becomes learning opportunities and growth towards a brighter future. In order for us to combat the fear of failure, we're going to have to work on our mindsets. I've often said that thoughts come into your mind uninvited. Sometimes some crazy things come into your mind and it just pops in there. But it's up to you what you receive as the truth, and it's up to you what you cast out and don't pay any more attention to. Imagination is everything. It was Albert Einstein that said, "Imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions." Many people spend so much time and so much energy imagining things that they do not want to happen. Why would you do that? Why would you spend your energy thinking on things that you do not want to happen and then creating them? I always like to think of positivity and negativity as a muscle. The thing about muscles is through resistance, they're built up and they're made stronger. So just like your natural body can build muscles, I believe that the muscles that you work on are the ones that grow stronger. So the more I work on the negativity in my life, the more I focus on the negativity in my life, that negativity muscle grows stronger and I become more of a pessimistic person. On the other hand, if I work out this positivity muscle, that muscle grows stronger, and then I end up being the type of person that sees every challenge as an opportunity. When we're talking about our mindsets, I believe that one of the worst things that we could ask is, what if it doesn't happen? This is probably one of the most expensive questions that we ask ourselves is, what if it doesn't happen? And it's a question that has popped into the mind of anyone who is wanting to accomplish something. Some people are able to brush it off quickly, and then some people just sit there and meditate on it. One of the things that cause us to have the thought of what if it doesn't happen is when our dreams are delayed. Whenever we are in the waiting room of life or we're in a waiting season, it causes us to think, maybe I did something wrong, or maybe this isn't the path that I should be going in, because I'm getting resistance here and I wasn't expecting resistance. But resistance always comes whenever you go after your dream. Challenges always come whenever you go after your dream. And it's not a sign that you're doing something wrong. Often it's a sign that you're doing something right. And you just need to persevere, and you just need to rise above it, and you can get to your dream. When it comes to the what if it doesn't happen thought, I know that that comes from the place of experiencing that delay. However, who said a delay was a denial to your goal? A delay is not a denial. A delay in the process, a challenge, is not a denial. It's not life telling you, no, you can't do it. It could be life testing your resolve. It could be life testing just how bad you really, really want it. And what you need is the type of mindset that says, no matter what comes my way, I was born for this, and I'm going to go for this. So challenge, come on if you want, but I'm going to figure a way around it. I will not be defeated by your presence. One of the reasons that I feel the what if it doesn't happen mindset is so detrimental is because it affects your confidence. And in order to accomplish anything, you need self-confidence. You need the belief that you can and that you will. And the main reason that people sit on their dreams is the fact that they doubt themselves. They don't believe that they can actually do it. Because if you believed you can actually do it, what would you do? There's the old saying of, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? And the only difference in that is the level of confidence that you would have in knowing that you couldn't fail. Oh, I would do this. There'd be no limits. Well, there are no limits besides the limits that are in your head. Another thing that we need to be careful with is don't overestimate consequence. Don't overestimate the consequences, because what we tend to do is we imagine catastrophic outcomes. We go to the extreme with some of our thoughts as to what will happen from us taking certain actions. Whenever you overestimate consequences, it magnifies the impact of failure and it causes you to be inactive. Now, am I saying that we need to just ignore risk? No, absolutely not. In fact, to ignore a risk would be irresponsible. I'm not saying ignore risk, but rather choose to calculate risk and be realistic in your risk assessment. One of the things that I've noticed in my life is that we tend to overestimate consequences and underestimate our abilities. And whenever you overestimate consequences and underestimate your abilities, you will move backwards in life instead of pushing and propelling yourself forward in life. So we need to work on this mindset. We need to reject the thought of what if it doesn't happen, and don't even allow ourselves to go there. Just as we can spend energy towards the what if it doesn't happen mindset, we can shift that energy over to what if it does. And one of the things about visualization is it allows you to imagine what happens if it does. And there are so many stories of people that aspired to be something and they thought, what if it does? I love what actor Jim Carrey once said. He said that when he was broke and poor, that he used to visualize getting the roles that he wanted, that he used to visualize the people that he admired coming up to him and saying, man, I really enjoy your work. Jim Carrey visualized being a success to the point where he wrote himself a $10 million check and dated it for Thanksgiving of 1995. So he was dead broke, and he wrote himself a check for $10 million, and he said it was for actor services rendered. Dead broke. And he ended up, in November of 1995, he found out that he was getting $10 million from the movie Dumb and Dumber. And if you don't get anything else from this talk, I want you to stop focusing on what you don't want. I want you to stop saying what you don't want, but begin imagining all the possibilities. And even if you want to get bold enough to write yourself a $10 million check, like Jim Carrey did, do it. But don't be afraid of failure. Imagine the good. Imagine the win. And if you fail, it's a stepping stone and it's something that you've learned. Thomas Edison, when he was inventing the light bulb, failed 10,000 times. He failed 10,000 times. And when they asked him about it, Thomas Edison is quoted as saying, "I have not failed. I just found 10,000 things that don't work." And that is a beautiful reminder that failure is not the end. And most of us have not failed at something, the same thing, 10,000 times. The what if it doesn't mindset causes you to focus on distraction instead of truth. People who fail in life focus on distractions. People who win in life focus on the goal. Now, that doesn't mean that the people that win don't have failures, but they do not allow failure to distract them from the goal. Their focus is on what they do want as opposed to being distracted by the possibility of what they don't want happening in their lives. Everyone experiences failure or they experience challenges to a degree. Did you know that Walt Disney had an emotional breakdown because his idea for Oswald the Lucky Rabbit was stolen? We don't know Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Those of you that are Disney fanatics, you do. But what we do know is what came next. And Mickey Mouse came next. Did you know that Milton Hershey failed to set up his confectionery business twice? We don't hear about the two failed attempts, but we definitely know about Hershey's chocolates. Did you know that H.J. Heinz had a horseradish company that went bankrupt? We don't hear about the horseradish company, but a lot of us have Heinz ketchup in our fridge. I say all of that to say that what separates you from those that are a success is not failure. What separates you from those that are a success is not challenges, but what separates you from those that are a success is whether you have a knowing on the inside of you and whether you have perseverance to push past any challenge that tries to come your way. Just as failure was a part of their success equation, is there a chance that failure is a part of yours? And if you persist, your story will not only set up you, your story will not only set up your family, but your story will encourage other people that if you could do it, they could do it too. And that is when you start making a legacy. That is when you start having an impact and you start working on something that is bigger and that is beyond you. As I wrap, I want to end with this mindset shift. And the mindset shift is every stumble is a stepping stone towards success. If I stumble forward. And while it might hurt when I hit the ground, what's most important is, do I get up and do I continue in the forward direction? Always remember, growth is a journey, it's not a destination. I'm in it with you, and I'll catch you on the next one.